Hey, Email and Coffee with Joy Brooks. It's Friday, and it's the same Friday that I talk with you every other Friday, but it's yet another Friday in another dimension. Today I'm taking drugs. Today I'm talking with Megan Bushhausen. Yay! Megan, the reason I say that is she's going to spell it for you, and it's a spelling bee. Everybody else will have to spell it after this. It's a test. Megan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, all. Thank you for having me on. So I'm Megan. Do you want me to spell my last name? Oh, it's in the thing, so you can probably see how it's spelled. It
Oh, there
doesn't
you
sound
go.
like
Yeah, it's in
anything.
five. So
Yeah.
everybody
It's right
practice. Go
there.
ahead.
Practice Bushhausen. That's how you pronounce the last name. Yeah, I like to joke about that a lot. Just, I don't know why. I just do. I guess just because it's looks so different than how it sounds. So I kind of like to be a little self-deprecating about it because I know it's hard, but we all
That
get
is,
there eventually.
it is a
Um,
hard, it is a hard one.
yeah, so I guess a little bit about myself. I will do the super short version. I will try not to ramble about it because sometimes I ramble, which I guess is good for an hour podcast.
I was going to say,
So
ramble on, babe.
ramble on. Okay, so a little bit about myself. So I am a bona fide email geek. I hang out in that community a whole lot for, I think it's been like 4, maybe going on 5 years at this point. The best group of people. Shout out to the email geeks. Love you all a lot. I work over at Cinch Email as their senior email developer. Cinch Email might be a new name to people watching right now, but we actually are comprised of 3 brands that you probably know and love, which is Mailgun, Mailjet, and Email on Acid. So I get to handle the lifecycle marketing emails for all those brands, and it's fabulous. Super great place to work. So that's like my professional life. I do a little bit of speaking. I write an email newsletter called It Depends. And I send that out about once a month. And I kind of just riff on things about email marketing, email development. Sometimes I get a little bit into activism if something's kind of bugging me and I feel like thoughts just need to get out there. I often say you can come on the journey with me or don't. I am super proud to say that while big lists aren't super important, you want somebody who's engaged. I did just cross the 500 subscriber threshold, and I was really excited about that because I am always convinced no one's going to want to come on the journey with me. Their choice. So I'm super excited that over 500 people want to come on the journey with me. So if you want to join us, come join us. megbosh.com/newsletter will get you there. Or if you follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn, I post about it there too. So you can find all that stuff there. Feel free to connect with me in all the places too. I love talking to new people. Outside of all this fun work stuff, which I spend too much time on, I hang out in rural Connecticut amongst the goats and the sheep that I can hear from my house with my husband and daughter. And I have 3 dogs and I have a bunny hanging out behind me. And we just kind of hang out here and do our thing.
Yeah, so I have to say, going down a rabbit hole is has a whole different
different meaning.
I had a bunny once, and it was a little white bunny. I found it outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many? Well, I live in Long Island. White bunnies do not exist.
Yeah.
Little gray bunnies, speckled gray bunnies exist. White bunnies do not exist. There I am looking at my window going. So I walk outside, bunny doesn't move. I go down, I pick up the bunny, no problem. Bring bunny inside. Now I have a bunny. And so I learned from Bunny, whose name was Thumper. I learned from Bunny why they called Thumper Thumper. Because bunnies, when they get nervous or pissed off, they thump their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, which Thumper did now and again. But what Thumper loved to do more than anything else was to eat through wires.
Oh, yeah.
And for quite a long time, I would, every single electrical wire I had was nibbled on.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I could still find it and laugh.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's we went down a rabbit hole about rabbits.
Yeah, bunnies are fun. They're cute.
They're cute. So
More work than you would expect.
they are a lot of work. They are a lot of work. You have been to a few conferences and you have been
Yes.
speaking. So which one was the last? Tell us a little about it.
So the last conference I spoke at was at Parcel Unpacked, put on by the company Parcel, that is by Avi Goldman and Naomi works there. Naomi West works there. And they put a conference together very quickly that happened in January. And I got to talk about email design systems, which is something that I work on in my job a lot and I'm very passionate about. My fun fact about that conference is that one time I tweeted about wanting to give like a really deep technical talk about my email design system because it's completely powered by Parcel. I'm a huge fan of that company. And the next thing I knew, like Naomi had put together an entire conference and asked me to speak at it. So it's like really cool to have that kind of support in the community when you say you want to like do a thing and then someone else makes the thing happen. It was a really great conference, probably the only conference that I've attended, spoken at, that is just like strictly email developer focused. I also speak at Email Camp each year, which is the conference that my company puts on, and we do an email marketing day and an email developer day. But Parcel is the only one that just did straight up email developer. So it was like technical talks, career talks, debugging stuff. It was 2 days, like half day each. It was amazing. It was just so great to be able to geek out with those other developers, which I feel like is something we don't always get to do because everything tends to be strategy and design focused. So.
Yeah. Just so that people who don't know about Parcel, maybe they can understand a little bit what Parcel does. Why don't you just give a little idea? I mean, it's an editor, but it's more than an editor. So tell us, some of the functionality that's pretty cool about it.
Yeah, so Parcel is an HTML developer, or HTML editor, I should say, and it's the only HTML editor out there that is geared specifically towards email. That's not like attached to a bunch of, well, I guess I shouldn't say it's not attached to a bunch of other services. They have other services in there now. I've been using Parcel since like their beta days, and they've been growing at like this fast rate, like incredibly fast rate that I've never seen any other company grow and push out products and take back the feedback from their customer base and just make new features and whatnot. So in there, I use their component feature a lot, which allows you to create these reusable blocks of code so that you can, take your different layouts and kind of just like build them like your Lego bricks, which is what my whole talk was about, how to create this whole system. And with it, I can leverage a little bit of JavaScript and use form inputs to do things like brand switching and language switching. I can switch things based on audience type or whether I'm working on a marketing email or transactional email. You can create all these powerful things in Parcel and just set these attributes for, just rapid switching so that you're spending less time like noodling in the code and more time creating the actual emails. So nowadays I can create an email and depending on how robust it is, if it's like a really basic email, I can create it in less than 10 minutes and have it, depending how quick we're moving, I can have it QA'd, reviewed and QA'd in less than an hour. I've done 3.5 hours before one time when I had to move really fast. With the component system, one time in like 3 days, I coded up, I think it was like 52, 53 emails that came down from, the broader Cinch company they needed help with. I did what did I do? I supported a whole new brand in like an afternoon. I think it was like 20 brand new emails in 2 days. So it allows you to really do these like rapid turnarounds when you need to. And you don't have to worry about that QA aspect as much, and that because all your code's been tested and good. So once you put those emails together, you're just QAing to make sure that, your text is laying out the way you want it and making sure you didn't forget to do any of your components, the correct way. So it makes that QA piece a lot easier and a lot faster. So you can push out, more emails in less time, more efficiencies, fewer errors, and all that jazz.
It's pretty refreshing when you can have the concept of template understood and appreciated by somebody, because many times when we're working with clients, part of perhaps the project is to create templates, right? So you go through the conversation, you ask them what they need, they tell you what they want, you create the templates, they like, this is great. The first moment that you go to roll out the first campaign, they bring in a component that doesn't fit in the template.
Oh, yes.
And you're like, how do I explain to them what we just did? The concept template is understood by developers, bootstrapping and templates and reusable, components and instances, all of these really somewhat geeky things. We get those and no one else gets. And, honestly, I never hold it against a client. I used to get really frustrated by clients. And now I realize they don't think like we think. And that's why they hired us, because we think that way. Otherwise, the reason they can't do it is because they don't think the way we think.
Right. I actually ran into that recently with some emails we sent out. So for anybody on the MailJet or email on Acid lists, you probably have been getting emails about these webinars that we're running with Action Rocket about artificial intelligence. And in them, I use this little kind of a call out area that was a different color than the rest of the email. And that originated from a different email that I'd sent out from MailJet, where we wanted it to look a little bit different than usual, but it was a component we didn't have yet. So I had to look at our existing components and see if there was a place it fit in, like email design system wise, which it did, because I did have a call out section already coded that popped a little bit outside the email. We use it mostly on the Mailgun emails when we want to call out different webinars and events. So it was interesting to go in, and I actually feel like I have to go in and look at it again to see if there's a more efficient way to code all of it to satisfy all the conditions of taking this call out that breaks out of the container to make it stand out, to now make it fit within the container and maybe change, the corners to rounded corners and keep it within instead of breaking out. And it was interesting to go through and figure out how those pieces fit together when you have this new thing that did not exist before and is not part of the template, but now you do have to make it part of the system and make it work some way. And one of the things I do love about email design systems is that they clearly not actually living and breathing, but call them theoretically living and breathing things, because I feel like an email design system is never done, because you're always going to run into those new use cases.
Right.
And to just say no to it, I feel like it's just to cut off that creativity and that innovation. So you always need to be open to those new ideas and figure out how to work it within your current structure instead of creating, often you can, if you have the basics there, you can fit it within the current structure instead of creating something completely new.
Exactly. That's the beauty of a design system. The point being is that your cascading style sheet is set up. So, okay, maybe I need to change this little piece a little bit or add another little piece, but it's all there. And what you're calling stuff. So it's not like you've got 50 different versions and using the same, calls with different words. It's always the same thing. It's a system. That's why it's called.
But everything's standardized, so it makes adding those new things way easier.
Way easier. I over time with a client, what I do instantly for that client is I build my own little design system. So I'll have all of the blocks that will take care of stuff. And if they ask for something that doesn't exist, in other words, I build the template without them I don't ask them. I just build the template. And I'll build I'll put in a 2-column, even though I know they're not going to use it, just in case. So if the time comes up where they let's say they have two images that need to link to two separate things, I'm not struggling with it and thinking how can I get it in there, and I need it to be, I need it to stack, and I need it to go 100%, and it's already there. I've never used it. It's
exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So, Parcel is, Dreamweaver is not designed like that.
No.
Parcel is designed for
that. If I hear someone's using Dreamweaver, if they have the option to switch to Parcel, I always recommend them switching to Parcel. I used Dreamweaver in a previous position to code a lot of my emails and then copy and pasted them into a different program. Parcel did not exist yet. And using Parcel now is like, I wish it existed all the way back then, because I would have saved so much time creating these emails and would have been able to put an email design system together there so much more easily if it existed, rather than trying to take all these snippets and copy and paste them and, edit existing emails to get it to do what I want to do and whatnot. Parcel has made my email workflow just so much better.
I haven't done something like Parcel, but I think I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I can imagine how much easier it would make everything that I do.
Yeah.
Because I have to redesign Dreamweaver to manage when I create projects in Dreamweaver, I actually have to do what Parcel does naturally. I do that in Dreamweaver.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
Parcel will make that a lot easier.
The way I code my stuff up is it's not with comments, but everything's in its own table.
Yeah. So
I can grab the table and move it over because I use the same cascading style sheet.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I'm not giving myself any amount of credit. In my mind is working like Parcel.
Yeah, totally. Your mind has to work that way.
Yeah, but
it's a totally different way of thinking too. Like, I had to completely change my way of thinking when I started working on my email design system. It was like an explosion. Like, my brain was just like,
right.
Yeah. I almost had to tear down everything I previously knew about email development and build it all back up.
Right.
In order to create this email design system.
Nothing is on the fly. Everything is compartmentalized.
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
Here's a block of, they present you with a design. And you're like, you look at it and you're like, okay, so how can it fit into the template?
Right. How do you fit it in? What do you need to change? Can it be, is it a whole new thing? Is it a variant?
Right.
It's that design type thinking is so interesting and wasn't something I was really doing until I had my current position. And it's really number one, being in this position made me a much better email developer than I previously was. But it's really challenged me to really dive into code and figure out why it's working. Like, I used to have so many moments of my code is not working. I don't know why. Now my code is working and I don't know why. And now I know, right? And now it's like I can look at it and really understand the code, really understand the CSS and know what's happening and why. And it just has made me such a better email developer. And it's just been awesome.
It's kind of funny. You should say that. Here's a situation. I've got a tried and true social footer with all the icons, and they're all done. And literally, all you need to do is throw in another image at the same size. So, and I have all my images all sized out. Just throw one in to swap out the different social, So whatever it is, the footer's done. It's done. Suddenly, it's cutting off to the right all the images. Don't know why.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer?
Not without seeing the code.
And the thing is, it works.
Yeah.
It's working for years. And
suddenly stops working. Yeah.
Suddenly it stops working, and it's Outlook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Outlook's going to Outlook.
And I think to myself, it's Outlook. I'm not even going there. I'm not going there. Because they're going to change their model at some point, because they obviously just changed it.
Yeah.
They're going to do it again, and it's going to work again. So you know what?
Leave it.
Yeah. It just,
Outlook's releasing their new Outlook in 2026 now too. They'll start phasing out the old stuff, I think, I hope.
we go back and forth. Oh, it is
but
on
yeah.
it is on the, the document model. It isn't on the document model.
Yeah,
It's
I
on the email
know.
model. It's not on the email model. It's like, will you please make up your mind?
I know. Yeah.
It is an
Use
email. It's not a
Outlook.
document. Can you make it an email?
Yeah. Yeah, I read this really, I should bookmark it and I never do. There's this fascinating article that one of the developers on the original Outlook wrote about how Outlook came to be and why it was like on the word rendering engine and all of that. And really the crux of it was so that it didn't work with anything else, because it worked beautifully with Word because it had all the same formatting, but Bill Gates was like, if this is compatible with other things, like nobody will use our product. So it needs to be proprietary. And it's like, that's not the way the internet was going at the time. And that was his thought about all the Microsoft stuff. Yes. And that's just not the way the internet went. Things need to be cross compatible, and everybody's on different things. You need to take all of it into account, and the internet's supposed to be open, not closed.
One of my biggest pet peeves, because I'm a contractor and I have a number of different clients, the client that comes on board and says, we use Outlook, I'm like,
oh God.
Because I have 3 clients who work on Gmail. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
They all have Gmail addresses. I have 3 windows open. I can all get my mail, no problem. But with Outlook, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Computer, it's like, I'm freaking out. I don't know which Outlook you want. Well, which account? I can't find it. I'm finding out. I'll go in, I'll log into this one, and it will tell me you can't get into. I'm like, really? even the web version is closed.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I really like about Outlook over like Gmail, because I've used, G Suite in O365. I do like Outlook's calendar a little bit more than Gmail. Like their calendar is really good. And like I used to have trouble seeing my work calendar and my personal calendar side by side. So, cause like I have a gazillion personal appointments for myself and my daughter. And with O365, it all just syncs.
Yes.
And like the Gmail account comes in and like I can add stuff to my Gmail calendar right in Outlook. And I'm just like,
you got it? You have got it synced together?
Yeah. So like on my O365 calendar, I have my personal calendar coming in and I can add stuff to my personal calendar right from my Outlook calendar.
Oh, we need to talk some other time, because I tried to sync and I gave up.
Yeah. I don't know. It works like magic. It works for me. I'm like, I can duplicate, events. Like I can't duplicate events easily in Gmail calendar. I'm like, Gmail calendar, why don't you do this? But yeah, I do like Outlook calendar, like much better than Gmail's calendar, but that's pretty much it.
So speaking of speaking, are any things coming up? Any speaking events coming up that you're working on?
Not immediately, no. I've actually have declined quite a few speaking opportunities because I was doing so much in Q1, which, when I said the last thing I talked at was Parcel, that's a lie. That's not true. I'm just realizing. So this is why I was turning down other speaking, because I was very busy this first quarter of the year. I spoke at ANA EEC with Gilda Hilaire, Karen Slater, and Aisha Marie Zuain. And we were on a panel together about women in MarTech, which was very fun and fascinating for us to be on. So that was in February. So Parcel was in January, and AEEC was in February. So like they were very close together. And in March, I was supposed to speak at another conference, and it was virtual, and I actually ended up pulling out of it because the timing ended up not working for me. And like, I was like, I can't even think about another talk right now. Like it's in 2 weeks and I haven't started even working on it. And not a whole lot was even confirmed yet. So I told the organizer that I could not speak. So I'm taking a little bit of a break.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work. Yeah.
For people that, and there was a time that I thought to myself, oh, I'd love to do that. Right. Well, I thought the thought, and I was like, no. But there was a time that I thought that it's a lot of work. It's not stressful. It's draining.
It is exhausting. And like, believe it or not, I am a super procrastinator. So like, it's a big joke at work too, that like, I do not turn talks in ahead of time. Like last year for email camp, it was like the day before and I was like just finishing it up. And I was making changes to my parcel unpacked talk like day of. I was speaking in the afternoon and that morning I was still making changes to it. So it's just like, I need that like looming deadline to get it done. So it'll be like a week out and I'm just starting. And I always underestimate how much time or overestimate how much time. Like I'm always off on how much time it'll take me to do something. I don't think it always takes me longer than I think it's going to take basically. I'm like, oh, this will be easy. I'll get it done in 2 nights. Done. Boom, boom. And then like 2 nights go by and just like a quarter of the way there, I'm just like, oh no. And then like I do a run through and and I think that I'm filling up like a good half hour of time and it's like 15 minutes of time. And I'm like, oh, ooh, okay. Bad. So that's how I function with talks. So I have to be careful of how many I agree to.
Yeah, it's not only that, but we all get like a natural push, high adrenaline rush, whatever. And that's exhausting when you're done.
Oh yes, exhausted.
When you're done, you're done.
Like, oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Because depending on how much, how much your nerves are invested, if you're, even if you love to do it, you're still that adrenaline high, you enjoy the high. So you're invested in getting it done. You get on stage, you're all hyped up, you're hyped up before, you're hyped up during, you're hyped up afterwards. And at some point in time, you're going to crash.
Oh, yes. Especially if like I'm away at a conference, like I don't sleep well when I'm not at home, just like period. So like I'm usually functioning each night off of maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep, not because I went to bed late and was like out partying or something. It's mostly because I'm just like tossing and turning in bed because I don't have my mattress and my pillow and I need the mattress and my pillow.
Right.
And it's just like, it's just like, and I'm by myself and just like, so it's just like just running off of like caffeine and adrenaline. And once it's all over, you're just like, okay, now I'm tired and I can't really function.
Yeah. But, a lot of people, Gilda's so busy these days that she's doing.
Oh my gosh, I know.
She's doing quite a lot, and which is great. And I, tip my hat to her because I wouldn't have the energy to do it now. I wouldn't have the energy. And I don't really want to do it. The podcast takes a lot of my time. And while I used to prepare, ridiculously so.
Yeah.
I found that it was more important to find guests than prepare content.
Yeah.
Because good guests will come on the show with content. And they're the content. I'm the interviewer. It's really, the podcast for me is a journey of I don't know what I'm going to find. It's just like a discovery. And that's what it was intended to be.
Yeah.
Say the podcast is my voice telling me to do it, build it and they will come, and me saying, what do you want? And no answer. And I'm like,
but you have built it and people come watch.
People come.
Yeah.
And it's a journey. It continues to be.
Yeah, totally.
So when you're not traveling and you're working, what are some of the things that, you like to do for yourself? Like, what are those little, those moments of, those sweet moments for yourself? What do you like? What do you like to do?
So when I'm at home, I have a little garage gym. So I love to weightlift. So I've actually had like a cold all week. Today's the first day I feel good. So like I haven't lifted much this week. I only got like 1 lift in, but I am actually training for a powerlifting competition in July. So it's like, it'll be my second competition ever. Before I went to powerlifting, I did CrossFit for like many, many years. And I've always been an athlete. I've always lifted as part of being an athlete. And it's just something I really love to do because it makes me feel powerful. And I also now being a mom have found that it's like a really great way to show my daughter like one of the many ways that women can be powerful, because she'll hang out with me sometimes and while I'm lifting, and then she'll start doing her own exercises. Or like, I think it was last week, I had my barbell on the ground, there was weight on it, and she like just started doing like burpees and jumping over it, just back and forth. And like, she knows that I like love when she starts doing those things. So I swear she hams it up just to make me laugh. But it's like little small moments like that make me smile with her. She's a really funny kid.
Weightlifting is not just lifting weights. There's a technique to doing it. So
yes. Oh, yes.
If you just bend down and try to pick it up, you'll kill yourself.
Oh, yeah. So like I actually have a lifting coach. He's virtual. I take videos of myself and send them to him. And I started working with him in 2021. I'm actually right after I got my job at Email and Acid, or Syngema, I should say now. I was like, okay, if I get this job, I am hiring this trainer. And so I ended up hiring the trainer because I was like, I will have the budget to do so. So I've been working with him since 2021, and he's amazing. We have like retooled my form in all my major lifts, which are squat, bench, and deadlift. And like, they look so good now. Like I look at very old videos of myself at CrossFit doing these lifts. We didn't bench so much, but a lot of squatting, a lot of deadlifting. And I thought my form back then was like pretty good. And like, I look at those videos and I'm like, oh no, that was bad. Those were bad. Like, this is very good. Yeah.
It's a strategy. And the thing is,
it's
strategy is in movement. It's in movement, and muscle is different. It's not.
Yeah, you have to learn. And like, so like I work with him, and he's part of a physical therapy practice called Move Athletics that I go to on a monthly basis. I actually started going there 3 years ago, this month actually, for like a wrist thing. And then like they work with athletes. So then it turned into like looking at my mobility, which was overall really bad. So like for the last 3 years, I've been working on like a lot of ankle mobility and stuff. Cause like I used to not be able to back squat with no shoes on. Like I needed my belt, and I needed the lifters, which go like this, which allows your knee to travel over your foot so that you can stay upright. And it's like this whole big technical thing. And like going to Move Athletics, like not only have they helped me take care of the mobility part of it, they have taught me how to properly brace my core, which is kind of like your inner weightlifting belt, which is something they don't go over at CrossFit at all. Or anybody when I was lifting for track and field, like those coaches never went over it. And how to root my legs, which is how to properly brace your legs to make sure there are no, energy leaking while you are doing your lifts. And it's made like a gigantic difference in how I lift. So I've been kind of slowly, I've been rebuilding a lot of my strength through working with these people. And they're just also just a great support group in general. Like they just support their clients really well. So I'm like super appreciative of them. They're like some of my favorite people that I know.
There's a strange amount of it's an art, it's a skill. I'm not athletic at all. I don't know if I could be turned athletic. I think that I have an endurance. I don't have hand-eye coordination, and I don't think well enough to actually think a movement through. Makes sense. Like you're actually thinking things through. If you're saying stuff, okay, I'm going to need to lift this. So you're actually quickly going through in your head all of the different things you have to do. You're like, my legs have to be here. I would be, I'd be like, oh, what do I need to do?
Oh, anybody can learn it. If you walk, you're an athlete, in my opinion. Anybody can learn it.
I don't know. Like I said, there are certain things that there are my strengths. I get too nervous about, like when I played instruments. And I've always thought to myself, if I can just learn the technique, but it's not just the technique. You're reading the music. feeling the music,
Yep.
Emotionally understanding the music, and going to the next point, and then you're translating it through the instrument, playing the notes. I'm like, that's too much for me to do. I can't. I'm just at the point where, oh, that's a G. Okay. Oh, G sharp. Okay. And the next person is taking every moment and emotionally turning it into something beautiful. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let them do that. I'm not good at it. And it's okay. I discovered, I'm an endurance swimmer. I could swim forever. I'm a walker. I could walk forever. I'm like, okay, those are good things.
That is walking great.
Yes, be proud of them. And when I am walking, I'll occasionally make a movement, and I'll go, oh, that's not good. And I'll be like, I guess I shouldn't do that again. And so I'm not thoughtful about what I'm doing. And that's only because that's my personality. If I had been 2 years old and somebody started to train me, maybe, I don't know. I just think that there are some things that people do naturally. There are the hunters and the gatherers. I'm definitely a gatherer. I'm good at that. Put me in the garden. I'm good. I'm good. Give me a spear and I'll hurt somebody. And I don't mean dinner. I mean somebody.
Yeah.
Not good at that. It's not a good thing. Those are like the little challenges that we have with our own personalities and learning who we are. And how what we can overcome and what we just need to say, okay, that's just not my purview. So let's just what are some Megan challenges that you've challenged yourself and actually, gotten something out of it in a positive
way? Gosh, in a positive way. Oh gosh. I feel like we're always on a journey to find what we like to do and what we don't like to do. I guess that's such an interesting question. And it's something that I was actually, probably not the exact same question that you're asking, but kind of in the similar vein. I was thinking about it recently. Kind of a lot of it is about my age as I get older and how I used to be and how I am now. And how I never, probably until a couple of years ago, I never saw myself niching down into a really specific role. I'd always been a generalist, and I always felt like I'd never be good enough to be considered an expert in anything. I spent most of my 20s just and if you have the resource and you're able to do this, I actually think now with hindsight, it's good to do, even though I was struggling in the moment, to just throw things at a wall and see what sticks. Because I was a graphic designer, which I had a semi-successful job at, but I also wanted to be a web developer. I was not successful at that at all. I tried to freelance as a graphic designer and a web developer, was not successful at all. I go back and forth in my mind all the time whether I would want to own my own business one day. And I'm just well, maybe as an email developer, I could do it because I have the knowledge now and I'm a little bit more mature than I was back then to handle it all. I was but also I don't know if I could handle it all, So I think that's kind of one thing I've learned a lot about myself is kind of some of what I'm capable of. And you were saying before, there's some things I just can't do. I'm very bad at admin work. It can take me forever to get back to an email or file something away. And that's it's I've been asked if I want to be say a people manager. And I always say no, because I don't want the admin work. I can't handle that admin work. You don't want me doing that admin work. You want me in the technical tinkering with the code. That's where you want me. And that's where I excel. And it's been a rapid, what's the word I'm looking for? I think I've been rapidly realizing those kinds of lessons where I feel I struggled for so many years, and getting into the right environment has made me realize where I truly excel and where I truly don't.
It's sort of we begin to learn what we like, what we don't like. And then we try to figure out, well, do I not like it because it scares me? Do I not like it because I don't I just don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Do I don't like it because, it takes too long? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do I don't like it because of the person I have to work with? Why don't I like it?
Yeah.
And then you determine why you don't like it. And maybe you're not even thinking about it in those terms, but it ends up that you find or you understand why you don't like doing it.
Right.
And then you go like this, okay, I'll put that aside because I don't like doing that, so I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep doing that. Like you said, it is a throw it against the wall thing. And that is what youth is for. I mean, obviously you're not throwing hand grenades against the wall, but you're throwing it against the wall to see, hey, what happens? Did I like doing that? Do I ever want to do that again? Am I glad that it's over with?
Yeah.
Did I learn something from it? And we're overcoming who we were once before.
Yeah. Or what our expectations are of ourselves.
Right. And the most important thing is to, be kind. And that's something that I have to tell myself often when I'm critiquing myself. I'm like, okay, be kind. All right. All right. It didn't work out. Don't go off on a limb and try to find a scapegoat. Don't try to turn yourself into a victim. Don't, it didn't work. Okay. It's okay. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Fine. Move on.
Right.
One of the most important things in life that I'm still learning is, about the burning bridges.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to burn that bridge really badly. You may just want to just say what you really feel you have every right to say, and you have every right to say it, and you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you may just do it and say it, and in retrospect, think to yourself, I shouldn't have done that, but gosh, it really felt good, and I'm glad I did it. But, I'm never going to reclaim that time because it's gone. I burned that bridge. It's done. And, it's difficult. It's very difficult. Had a conversation with somebody, and it was about crying. And I said, women should not cry at work. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, why not? If she feels that way, she's vulnerable, why not? I'm like, it's exactly that term. It's vulnerability. And they're going to take it, and they're going to use it as a weapon. Mm. And, I'm sorry, this is the way things are. It's sort of like that bully. You're just giving them the reason, to call you short, stupid, fat, ugly, whatever it is. You're giving it to them. So the moment you cry, they know vulnerable. And it's a terrible thing. And I said, it's not so much that you don't cry. It's that you learn to find what triggers that feeling in you. And you need to learn what to do when that happens. So if you need to cut it short and to go have that cry, by all means. But don't, storytelling is one thing. Oh, I want to tell a story and be vulnerable. It's so great. Being vulnerable at work is not great. And, some people may disagree and may say that, the world should be a better place where you can be vulnerable. But people use what they can to move forward. And sometimes they use other people.
Yeah, I think it's really important to read the room and who you're with. Because I know people I work with now, I feel like I can be really vulnerable with them. Would I get on a call and start crying? I mean, hopefully not, because that would probably make other people really uncomfortable. But I know if I was having a really hard time with something for whatever reason, I could go to my manager and be like, I'm having a really hard time. This is why. It might take a couple of hours. I might take the rest of the day. And she'll say, okay, go, please take care of yourself.
Right.
Could I do that? I could do that with my previous job too. I had a really great manager there. Could I do that at the job before that? No, absolutely not. We had a situation at that 2 jobs ago was a place where people started stepping on each other to, try to make it through because we had just so much going. That was a whole situation of things going on. But I think if you can find the people like your people to be vulnerable around, to work with, it's just such a difference in working
Yeah, it
life.
is. It's like, it's a really good feeling that you know that, okay, so if I blunder, somebody's going to actually pick me up.
Right.
And they're not going to
Right.
tell you during your year review, well, remember the time you blundered? That's
right. 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 And I've had that happen to me before in a performance review where like stuff, and this was again 2 jobs ago, tons of stuff was happening. And I remember I got pulled into like kind of a pre-performance review by HR. And the VP of HR just started I was a graphic designer then. She just started laying into me. And I will never forget one of the things she said. And I've written about this a little bit before too in my newsletter. And we didn't have a marketing leader. He had retired. He was my first one of my first real bosses, also a great guy. We had no marketing leader for a while, and our COO, we were reporting to him. He was pretty much absent. And HR pulled me in and she was like, "You're not very creative, are you?" And like looked at her like completely blindsided because I was looking at like the work I was doing. And I was like, my work is good and fine. But I remember like feeling that for such a long time after, and I felt like I would never be good enough, like ever again. I would never be good enough to move to the next level. Cause I was so that was heading into like my late 20s, and I was starting to see like my peers get promoted into manager levels, director levels, all that. And I was, just the graphic designer, or, my next role, which I grew into an email marketing specialist position. I came in at an associate level, and I was like, why can't I move forward? Like, I know I'm good at what I do, but why can't I move forward? And it like wasn't until I got my current role where I kind of started like believing in myself a little bit more, and got to a place where like, they were like, okay. I remember when I started at Cinch, it was Pathwire then, and we went through like our onboarding stuff. And one of the things that always stuck out to me there was they were like, we move fast, we learn fast, we break fast. If you are not making mistakes, you are not moving fast enough. And being highly experimental. And I was like, great, this is awesome. And like, we've had things come up where like my coworkers like, oh, Meg, this is linking to the wrong spot in the email design system. Like, who knows how long it's been wrong, but hey, can you just fix it? I'm like, great, cool, fixed. And where it's like in previous jobs, that may have been a whole conversation getting pulled into the manager's office being like, Megan, you really shouldn't make these mistakes. And you're just like, and then it just like slowly beats you down until you think you're not worth anything. When you're in a place that just builds you up instead, like it just makes, you produce better work. It just makes your mental health a lot better and all that sort of thing.
I have had a list of dysfunctional companies that I've worked for.
Mm-hmm.
So the same, like you said, it's the same exact thing that went wrong in two different companies. And one company is saying, that's great. That's what we're looking for. Great. Now you've learned, let's move on. Let's fix it. And the other one is saying, oh, bad girl. Go
yeah.
Do not pass go, do not collect. And, it was all of those companies that I was working in that I had to overcome myself.
Yeah.
And say to myself, something, I work really hard. I pay attention to details. I'm, very organized, very disciplined. I'm all these great things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what's not working here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I haven't found somebody to appreciate me. Well, you know something? Stop looking for somebody to appreciate you and appreciate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So once I did that, I found a little bit of confidence, but I was already on the road to being a contractor. And I'm very happy that way. The fun comes when it's time to look for another job and I have to sell myself again. Mm-hmm. That's okay, because it keeps me thinking, what can I become?
Mm-hmm.
I'm always becoming. We're always becoming.
Yeah.
If we allow ourselves, we're always becoming. And, it's just a matter of, you plant a seed, the seed becomes a little sprout, the sprout becomes a stem, the stem becomes a flower, the flower wilts, but it has another bud and it keeps going. And then at the end of the season, well, you know what? We all pass, but we're not talking about passing, we're talking about becoming.
Yeah.
So I have that concept in myself, and it's a very fortunate thing that I found that. Not a lot of people have it. We could call it imposter syndrome. We could call it whatever we want. We can name it what we like. But the most important part of it is we will all doubt ourselves. And that imposter syndrome never goes away. The point is, when you're feeling that, recognizing it and appreciating what you have overcome to allow you to go to the next step. Because that's what you're feeling. You're feeling nervous about that next step. If you're feeling an imposter syndrome, it may be because somebody's asked you to do something that you haven't considered doing, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Am I an expert? I'm not an expert.
Like, am I ready? I remember when one of my friend who connected me to my current job, sent it to me, and I was like, am I ready for this? And I had been talking to a couple of friends in the industry about different things with my previous job. And they were like, it's my previous job was great. I wouldn't have this job without that one. I had outgrown it, and I was ready. I was trying to figure out my path, whether I wanted to go email marketing manager or email design development. And every time I had the conversation with my manager, who did a brilliant job just letting me do my thing. His name's Craig Rosane. I'm Facebook friends with him and keep up with him a little bit. He did such a great job just letting me develop and do my thing with our email marketing program. And we'd have these conversations, and he'd be like, what do you love about email? And I was like, design development. And that was I love email design and development. And at my old place, I think the growth path would have been an email marketing manager position, not an email developer position. So this one came up, and I was like, I'm at a specialist level. Am I ready to go to a senior level? And my friend was like, no, you're ready. You need to apply for this. You're ready. And I talked to a couple of other people, and I didn't know the hiring manager super well. I knew of the hiring manager. I knew of some of their interests. So the test, I had to design and develop a newsletter. So I catered it totally towards the hiring manager because I knew their interests. Literally created a fake company, designed the branding. I spent way too much time on this thing, more time than anyone would ever suggest doing on an interview test. And I sent it to a couple of people and be like, this is terrible. Right? I'm never going to get this job. And each person who I talked to was just like, Megan, you're going to be brilliant at this. This job is for you. This is great. You're going to be great. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll be great. Okay. And then so I feel everyone needs a group. And I don't know if I'm going off topic here now from what you originally asked. But I always think we need to build ourselves up. It becomes easier to build yourself up when you have the people around you to build you up as well. Because it's hard to get that all from the inside.
They're not just saying you're beautiful, you're good, and you're good enough. They're saying they know you.
Right.
And they know, no, this is you. This makes sense.
Right. And if I was not ready for it, they probably would have told me.
Right.
I could trust them on that. Yeah. And now I've gotten to this position, I'm you know what? I can say I am good at what I do. I am. And I won't tell somebody I'm not good at it.
The thing is, it's kind of funny because I understand you said, you could have gone into become an email, marketing manager, right? For a team. But what you're doing is you're an email developer. You're managing the code. You're managing things.
Yeah. Yeah, I like managing things and processes and that sort of thing, just not people.
Yeah, and that was the same that's the same conclusion I said. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't deal with drama because I really don't know what to do with drama. But logic, I can deal with logic. If it's not working, I can figure it out. Or
Like,
figure a way to solve it. So if I can't figure out why it's not working, let's figure something that does work.
Right. Like, I'm very surprised. Some people may be surprised to hear this because I don't always come off this way online because it's easier for me to put my thoughts into words and like in person. But I'm actually a very non-confrontational person. So like the thought of having somebody like that has to report to me and then I have to give them their performance review, like, or like if I ever have to give a bad performance review or like fire someone, like, no. I'm happy to like mentor. I'm happy to mentor. Like I'm actually just starting a mentoring relationship with 3 women who all work together. And I'm super excited to get started with them to teach them more about email development. Like I am so happy to like do something like that. But like, I don't want any HR responsibility. That's how I refer to it. No HR responsibility.
No, I understand. It's just use my strengths.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't try to build something that someone else is naturally good at, and I'm not. I'm just not.
Right. Yeah. One thing I learned at my previous position, because I was hired by one manager, then he left a little bit after, and then I got Craig. But the manager for Craig, his name was Eitan. I remember before he left, we had a review, and he told me like not to waste time on the things that I'm like really, really not good at, because they're not going to improve that much to make it worth it. To really focus on the things that I'm good at and the things that I know I can make better. And I always took that to heart. And that's kind of how I started focusing my time. So if I'm like super bad at something, I'm just like, I'm bad at that. Find someone else to do it. Not going to improve that much. It's not worth my time. And I think that's actually not a terrible way to be.
No,
and it just saves your energy a bit.
For a number of years, because you thrown it against the wall, you said to yourself, "This is not a strength. This is a strength.
Right.
This is not a strength." And I've been at it 10 years, so the concept is pretty much staring me in the face. Let's ask someone else to do that, and I'll do this, because swapping it around is going to make both of them meaningless.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, like I know
that's what life is all about.
Exactly. So like I know like in my work life, I don't really deal in ESPs anymore. I'm really like I just hand off the code. I'm so happy to just hand off the code because when I used to make errors, it wasn't that often that the error was in the email itself. Like sometimes it was, but more often than not, my error was when I'd be setting segments or something in the ESP and like I miss one tiny little detail, and something gets messed up. So I'm like, and it's like one of those things where I'm like, yes, I can hand this off now to someone else. I love it. This might shoot myself in the foot later on for a different job, maybe. Who knows? But that's the way I am, and I'm happy to come email and hand off the HTML for people to do with what they know.
Right now, the journey that you've had has. I mean, it's, back to that metaphor that I used before. It's blossomed into something that it needed to be.
Right.
And it may take you, somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of the becoming. So, but you'll recognize it when it begins to happen.
Right.
And
I think you need to be open to it happening.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a short stop. Sometimes it's a short stop where you're like, boom, whoa, what just happened? Sometimes those things happen. When my husband passed, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it wasn't like I have time to think. I just had to put it in motion. But I was way prepared with all of my previous life to do that. And I just rolled it out. I remember having a conversation. Matter of fact, it was with Naomi. And she was like, well, you don't need to do this now. And I'm like, oh, I need to do this now.
Yeah.
I need to do this now. And she's like, okay, let's do it. So, it's just with everything that you do, you have to recognize all of the things that, you're throwing against the wall, use the metrics.
Right.
That's the thing. Just don't keep throwing it against the wall. Use the metrics. This worked. That didn't work.
Right. Being able to read Yeah, I think it's important to be able to read yourself.
Something that worked. How do you do it? Well, you recognize what makes it work, and then you start to, it's transferable.
Right.
You can make it work here, 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 and here. And you start doing that, and then you're like, oh, that's when life becomes multidimensional. It's like, oh, wow, this is great. It works at work. It works with my husband. It works with my daughter. It works at the supermarket. It works. It's a secret of life. And now, there's something that you've got in your arsenal so that you have something that you can lean on. That's totally Megan. It's totally yours.
Yeah.
You can explain it to somebody else and they'll have to go for it themselves. They won't get it until they go for it. It's a little thing, the little miracles of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were talking before. Do you like different kinds of podcasts? Like, what do you?
I do. Yeah. So I used to be a really big reader, but that's kind of gone downhill lately. So I have started leaning on podcasts, and I put them on. Like, I have to listen to a podcast if I want to do any chores, or like my brain is just way too all over the place, and like I can't get the chore done. So I have a couple of podcasts that I absolutely love. So the first one I tend to listen to on Mondays and Thursdays. There's this parenting podcast called Mom and Dad Are Fighting. Great for parents, great for non-parents. There are 3 hosts. They have a large backlog because hosts will come and go as their kids get older. And usually they'll talk about their triumphs and fails. So they tell stories about their kids and whether something went well or something went horribly, horribly wrong. They'll kind of talk about maybe one parent says that they failed, but the other parent, but one of the other hosts will be like, oh no, but you say that's a fail, but this happened. So I say it's a triumph. So it's like that sort of thing. And they answer listener questions. So you get 3 different perspectives on a parenting question, which I think is really fun. And they have recommendations, and they're just really funny people. So I love listening to that. Other ones I listen to is Maintenance Phase podcast, which I find amazing. That one takes dieting fads and breaks them down into the studies and why it was a fad, why it's terrible for you. It kind of shines a light and breaks down a lot of what we think we know about nutrition and food and dieting and all that jazz. And it's really interesting to listen to, mainly because you learn that a lot of the studies, a lot of advice is based off of are just very badly designed on self-reported data. Why does the government say that you should eat 2,000 calories a day? Well, there is no scientific backing for that. It's based off of self-reported data. So they have tons of episodes like that. Just really interesting. What else do I listen to? Anything. That one's Michael Hobbs is the host. Anything with Michael Hobbs, I give an A+ to. He's amazing. I am also listening to the Dear Prudence podcast. I love advice columns. And there's a Dear Prudence podcast that's super fun. Theme here of advice and things being answered. There's Big Mood, Little Mood, which is also an advice podcast with Daniel M. Lavery. He was the previous Prudy, and then they took his podcast and just turned it into his own podcast of advice giving. And he always brings on these really interesting guests from different, bring on different types of people that I just would never have access to otherwise, to hear about their life experiences or the type of things they do. He's brought on random data scientists or a marine biologist, and we'll ask them about their work. And it's lots of writers and these really obscure references to things. And I find it so interesting. Those are the main ones that I listen to. Another one that I really love, sort of email related, is Mistakes That Made Me by Ayman Ismail. You can find her on Twitter. I talk to her on Twitter all the time. So she brings on different business owners, and she'll talk about, those business owners will talk about the biggest mistake that they've made in their business and like how they grew and learned from it. And she is like such a great storyteller. Like if she narrated books, I would listen to like any book she narrated because I love her voice so much. That her podcast is styled very much like a Guy Raz podcast. If you've ever listened to like How I Built This, where he brings he tells the stories of how different like big businesses were built. It's very much in that style. That was actually probably one of the first podcasts that got me into podcasts, because before that I was like, I can't do this. They're boring. They're just these question and answer things and what the heck. And then like I listened to that and I was like, oh, this is like really good storytelling, and then kind of started getting into it from there. Those are all the major ones that I listen to currently.
Do you find
very informational type things?
Right. Do you find that you watch less and less TV and listen to more podcasts?
No.
Oh, you watch TV also?
Yeah, TV is kind of after my daughter goes to bed, maybe like an episode with my husband type deal. Yeah, because my podcasts are strictly during chores. So that'll be like in the pockets of time, like I wake up in the morning, and depending what time my puppy woke me up, I might throw a podcast on and clean some. Or like I listen to a podcast while I'm cooking dinner, like that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just in these like little pockets of time that I listen to the podcasts.
Podcasts have completely replaced television for me.
Yeah.
Completely. So I've got like history ones that I listen to and completely replaced.
Wow,
I just it's radio, but you know, sometimes they're videos also, but for the most part, like you said, you're listening, so it's a podcast, you're listening. Sometimes I watch them, but I find that I can just find anything that I'm interested in listening to at any point in time. And television is not really like that. Like, you know, if I say to myself, oh, you know what, I'd like to hear something about the Roman Empire. Well, good luck doing that on TV. Like, you can find a few movies. So, you know, would you like to see Quo Vadis? Yeah. No, I don't want to see Quo Vadis again. You know, what I want to, you know, and I'll find a few podcasts and I'll listen to a few podcasts on the Roman Empire.
Yeah, so, nice.
Yeah, so I do enjoy podcasting a lot.
Nice,
quite a lot.
Yeah,
and the concept of how it's done is fascinating to me as also, because it can be, like you said, informational. It can be conversational. It can be confrontational. It can be a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want to listen to. So, yeah. Do you, you had mentioned social here and there. Does social, do you think it's good or bad? So,
can I give the age-old answer of it depends?
Yes, you can.
Sign up for my newsletter. It depends. Social media is wonderful and social media is terrible. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for social media, I would not have a lot of the friends I have now.
Right.
Because so many of my friendships now are based online. Like, I have tons of friends I've never met in person. Or like friends I've met once. Like Karen Slater, my email bestie, like I didn't meet her in person until February at NAEEC, where we were on the panel together. But we've been friends for like 4 years, bonding over like parenting, because her youngest and my daughter are the same age, over just geeky things, because we're both kind of nerdy, over email. So it's just like, you know, just all these people that I would not be connected to otherwise, and would have had no way of knowing if it wasn't for things, you know, like being able to join the Email Geek community or being on Twitter. Like Twitter was transformative for me when I finally figured out how the heck to use it. I had a Twitter account for years and just like didn't understand like how it worked. And I was just like, but nobody talks to me on here. And then like I joined Email Geeks and everyone was like, oh yeah, we all talk on Twitter. So then like I started doing Twitter. So yeah, I mean, I think there are different platforms for different things. Like Like I am on Facebook for like family and school stuff, but like
Right.
I took myself off of Instagram, which is like the opposite of what most people do. But like Instagram, I started getting really annoyed because that's where I was charting a lot of my weightlifting journey. But because they had made so many like changes to their algorithm, I felt like none of my friends were seeing anything. It was just like bots and getting targeted for like these really bad fitness videos because a lot of people think they're like fitness influencers and know what they're talking about when they absolutely do not. And they give very bad advice. Do not follow fitness influencers. Big advice I can give to people. Find someone qualified to give you fitness advice and lifting advice because the stuff on Instagram is just really, really bad. So like I took myself off of Instagram.
The influencer is the downfall of social.
Yeah, like I don't like the influencer thing. I think everybody fashions themselves to know things and that's out of their purview. I will speak authoritatively on email development because I know a lot, but I'm also always open to being wrong because that has happened a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But like I will never give somebody advice on like diet or how to do an exercise. Like I might give you I can be like, this is my opinion, but like go find a professional who has gone to who has either gone to college or has, gotten the correct certifications for these things. Because I am not an expert at all and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. So I think that's kind of like one of the drawbacks of social media. Everybody can be an expert. Everybody has an opinion on everything.
Everything, yes.
And it's just, it can be a lot.
Yeah.
You have to curate it for sure.
And you have to curate yourself too, because at some point in time, after you've said the same thing 5 different ways, and you find now you're having an argument, and you just have to say, "I'm not going to. That's it. I'm done. This is stupid." And there's no point. You're not convincing anyone. You're not.
It's just like
you're not on the soapbox. You're not convincing anyone. And if you think that's what you're there on social to do, you can't proselytize. What you can do is you could tell people what you think, and it will repel or it will connect.
Yeah,
and that when you connect, you keep connecting, and that's what it's supposed to be. When you repel it, and somebody tells you where to go and what to do when you're there, and you've repelled them, and they're not your tribe, whatever it is, let it go.
Yeah.
Don't try to convince them that you're right and they're wrong. Let it go. And that's when social is bad. That's when social is bad. There was, during a certain president whose name we shall not mention, people were like unfriending, blocking.
It was bad.
It was very bad. And I thought to myself, this is not good. And I sort of tried to wean myself off of social. A lot of people never came back. Never came back.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I've met people that I would not have met. I'm not saying that I'm, the most popular person on the block, and I'm not pretending to be, but I have made acquaintances. I've made some fairly decent friends, and I am not addicted to it, but I can see where I could easily become.
Oh yeah.
Which
Definitely.
is why it's not on my phone. And I tell people this all the time. My phone is my phone. I know the younger, and I'm old, so I can say the younger generation. Anybody who's younger than me is the younger generation. I can understand that that the phone has replaced computers in many cases. So I understand that in some cases somebody may not have a PC at home. They may have a laptop and a phone. And so they pick up all their social. They make all their food orders. They do everything on their phone.
Oh my gosh, so much from my phone. Yeah,
I understand that, and that's when social can invade your life.
Oh yeah, I definitely have had to be like careful, and like my husband has actually called me out on it before, where he's like, "You're not in the moment right now. Like you're too busy like taking a picture and posting it somewhere." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right. All right. I'm gonna put this away."
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. So much is happening on the go. Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who's excellent. She is always taking pictures.
Yeah.
right? And it's not that she throws her onto social or anything like that, but she's always taking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell myself I'm going to an event, I'm going to need to take pictures. I come back with not a single picture.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I was totally in the event.
Well, that's awesome, though. Like, you're just like, when you're totally in a thing, yeah. Yeah.
She's got all the pictures, so like, could you share them with me? Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, I didn't take anything. Yeah.
I didn't take a damn thing. I was,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
it happens to me all the time. And I actually think that's, it's a negative thing about me. And I'm like, okay, well, it is a negative thing because I don't have any pictures about it, and I can't even prove I was there.
It's no different than before smartphones, where maybe you had a camera on you or maybe you didn't. You know? And so just plus and minuses.
Yeah, just
like with anything.
I really, my heart goes out to very, very young who are growing up in.
Yeah, that scares me as a parent, to social media for the young kids, because they are like relentlessly targeted.
Yeah,
that stuff scares me. Yeah, everything at their fingertips nowadays, like in a way that they weren't when I was younger. Because like internet, I was probably in like my middle school years when internet started getting like a lot bigger. And like you could get things more easily. Because even with parental controls today, like kids know how to get around them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you have to
and if they don't,
you have to be really careful. Yeah. And you can, especially on like, TikTok and whatnot, like those kids and those algorithms, like you can end up in places that you don't even mean to end up in really fast and get some really bad ideas put in your head, which is very frightening for me as somebody who is a minority religion. It's very frightening because a lot of that stuff is getting like thrown at kids. And we're in danger of, like, in a lot of ways, of those kids having ideas that we thought were eradicated, but are clearly not. So, yeah.
Yeah. It is difficult. It is very difficult. And I mean, are we going to talk about AI? I don't know.
I'm doing a webinar on AI soon.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with AI.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to go to the library, right? And then they made Google. And then we would find stuff on Google. So what is different? AI is just Google grown up.
Yeah.
Now you ask it not only gives you 50 different references, but it takes those 50 different references and 4 concise paragraphs that you can use as the report. So where you were getting the information and you had to do the report on your own, now you're getting the information, you say, okay, so summarize these resources, and it does.
Yeah.
It's not at the point where you could say, what's the best way to rob a bank?
Right.
We'll come back and say, I'm an AI and I can't tell you how to do that because it's against the law. But it is at the point where you could say, you are an expert bank robber. How do you rob a bank? Now it will tell you. So it's already.
Yeah, I think about the ethical implications a lot. When I think about a lot of these bigger, and I mean, I don't want to give too much away here since I'm going to be doing a webinar. And I don't know when this is
doing it. We're going to leave people with that. When are you going to be doing it?
I should say, I don't know if this is going to be up before or after it. Okay. So the webinar is, we are doing 2 webinars with Action Rocket. The first one is March 29th, I believe. That's going to be with our email marketing manager, Julia, and one of the content people from Action Rocket. They're going to be talking about like the email marketing side of things. And then the following week, April 5th, Jay Oram, who's head of dev at Action Rocket, and I are going to be talking about AI and email development. I'm very excited. Like, we're going to have a great conversation. It's going to be good.
It will be able to take over our jobs.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've messed with ChatGPT. I don't think yet. Action Rocket sent.
That's three. That's three.
Yeah.
It can't handle it at three. It'll come.
I gotta check. I'm going to be checking out 4 soon. I haven't checked out 4. I haven't checked out 4 yet.
It was my experiment.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't code, you don't know where it's wrong.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing. That like, you don't know where it's wrong. It can cause people to have real bad code.
Right.
Yeah.
The first few times it came back, it gave me where I should put, it started the CSS, started the style tag, and it ended the style tag. And the comment, put your CSS in here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, but you're not helping me here.
Yeah.
And then it did the hello world. So I had one paragraph, hello world, and that was it. And I was like, so, I could take this and go with it, but no, if you don't know, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Yeah, between now and the webinar, I'm going to mess with ChatGPT 4. I've done a couple of prompts into ChatGPT 3, and it was like, it left a lot to be desired, in my opinion.
I told it to write Python code.
Yeah.
For, I said, I want you to connect with an API.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I told it what API, and I told it what to do. It came back. I did about 4 different ways, and only one actually connected.
Yeah.
Everything else threw errors. At which point I was like, okay, so again, I have to know Python to be able to get errors out.
Right.
Or be able to go back to the prompt and say, I'm getting this error message, fix it, and understand,
right.
This is the for loop, fix the for loop, there's something wrong with the for loop, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So I need to be able to do that. And again, if you're an engineer at that level, you've already got all of your code in little buckets, and you just bring it out. Here's my for loop. Here's this.
You'd spend more time debugging their code rather than writing it, for sure.
Yeah. You've done that already. So right now it's not, but it will be able to build it. It will, because there's an engineer is going to go in there and it's going to teach it how to do it. So it's going to be done. So, but I often say this about that. I'll be retired.
I think I'll be fine. I don't know, when I think about AI, I think about a lot of the ethical implications of it. And it's only as good as the information you put in there. Mm-hmm. I am more against something like is it Midjourney? No, not Midjourney, DALL-E. Mm-hmm. I'm more against something like DALL-E, where you can.
Midjourney is
it Midjourney? Does Midjourney do the images too? Yes. Yeah. Okay, they both do the images. I'm more against something like that, where you can write an artist's name in and then a prompt, and then you can get something back in the artist style. I have a lot of artist friends, and it's already hard enough to make a living in the arts.
And the artwork is good too.
Yeah, except they can't do hands. Once it figures out hands, then they're screwed. Hands are hard. Artists have trouble figuring out hands. Drawing hands is really hard. In general. But yeah, I can't support something like that just hurts my artist friends so much. And it just goes, and I just think about what are my values? And I feel like it goes against my values as somebody who is who thinks the arts is just so important. Mm-hmm. I was a musician in high school and college. I minored in music. I have an art related degree, and it's just I can't support something like that.
I hear you.
I guess more to come on that, so I don't give away the whole webinar here.
I was going to say it's inevitable, because think about blacksmiths.
Yeah.
They were once a thriving field. Really? Is there a blacksmith in your town? Good luck.
Oh, yeah.
Shoemakers. Once, when I grew up, there was a shoe store, a shoemaker in my town, where you brought your shoes and they fixed them.
Yeah.
Really? Now? If you said that to a 12-year-old, they'll just, take those down to the to the shoemaker and they'll fix them. They'd be like, just give me a new pair of shoes. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
So, there are certain things that don't exist anymore, and it is life.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think our jobs are going to be going away anytime. Like, I think it still has a long, long way to go until all of our jobs go away, for sure.
You'll see it. You'll see it at the very end of your career.
Yeah, maybe at the end of my career. Yeah, we had a whole lot of other problems we're going to have to solve if that starts happening, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which could be its own like hour of talking about, I feel like.
Yeah, really, really. So it's the end of our hour. Is there anything you want to leave people with? Yeah, it went fast. I know.
Yeah, that went by really fast.
Yeah.
What do I want to leave people with? Oh man, I guess this is my sage advice. I guess. What do I want to leave people?
Well, it could just be where to find you.
Yeah, it could be. I was trying to think of something profound.
I know. Well, don't worry. Maybe you tell them where they can follow you, and then you'll put that profound statement in there when you figure it out.
Follow me on all of the socials for profound thoughts. They are not profound. Yeah, I guess if people who have stuck around to the end of this, I am super active on Twitter at Meg Bosch. So you can really find me there and probably find everything else you need to know. I am semi-active on LinkedIn. I feel like I haven't cracked that nut yet on how LinkedIn actually works. I hate how everybody formats their posts because it feels fake to me and I just want to be me. So
I do haiku. Go ahead.
Oh, nice. So I guess if you see my stuff posted on LinkedIn, please support it so the algorithm likes me a little bit more. So you can find me on LinkedIn. If you friend me there, just tell me that you found me via here because I think I've been getting a lot of spam and stuff lately, so I might start cracking down on how many people I accept as friends because it's getting a little out of control. But I do love connecting with people, so I don't want that to put someone off from connecting with me. Just let me know you found me through here and I will happily be friends on LinkedIn. So those are really the two best places to find me. I guess this is my time to plug. I did not talk about in this whole thing about Notes from the Dev once, which is kind of sad. So go onto YouTube, search Notes from the Dev. That is podcast web show thing that I host. Under email on Acid. I bring on guests. We do some pretty quick and actionable tips about email dev. Some of the episodes go a little bit longer for really cool interactive stuff. So go watch that, subscribe, whatever. It's a pretty cool series. That's fun. Sign up for my newsletter. It depends. You can find the link for that probably on Twitter or LinkedIn. Or megbosch.com/newsletter, which is an easier way to get to it too, where there's a sign up. And other than that, I guess my sage advice is to, be kind, stick up for the little person, follow your values, don't get sucked into the BS.
There you go. Thanks so much for being here, Meg. It was a great hour.
Thank you for having me on. This was a lovely conversation. I'm so glad we finally got to connect.
You bet. Be good. Take care. Be kind to everybody.